We are now ready to begin your first file. The screen and click on your Starburst button. The New File screen appears. Check the box to open a new file. The four fields under File Details have a similar function to a label on a file folder. This is where you will label your data file so that you can find it in the future. In the case matter reference, you will put in a name for the estate using the same procedure you always use in your own firm. If your firm uses file numbers, put the firm file number under Firm File Number. For those firms who do not use file numbers, I suggest that you use a year, month, day format using the date of death for the decedent. Enter the name of the decedent, and if you have the estate EIN number at this point, enter it. Otherwise, click the Tab key. You will now be asked to purchase this file. The Probate System 5 is sold in metered units. Each unit costs $50. When you purchased your initial 4 units for $200, you purchased 4 files. Every time you check this box and purchase a file, your meter will decrement by 1 unit. A warning box now appears. Make sure that all the information you have put in above is correct. You will not be able to change the first 3 fields. When you are satisfied that the information is correct, click the Purchase button. The system will thank you for your purchase, and new fields will appear. The next 3 fields are quite important. When you begin a new file, even if you're only entering the label information, always make sure that you assign an attorney, a staff, and an office. Otherwise, the answer file will not name properly. Checking Co-Counsel allows you to enter an additional attorney field. If you have more than 1 attorney in your office signing on your pleadings, you may put up to 2 attorneys on a pleading. In this area, under Check to Close Estate File, is where you would go if you actually wanted to close this file out and never get into it again. This is usually not a necessary field to check. There's a very good reason to always have an open estate file. Sometimes you may only need 1 document for an estate. While you have an open estate file, you can always go into that open estate file and create the document as a blank Word document. It will, of course, not have any information in it, but you can use it. Notice the 4 files at the top of the screen. At this point, you could actually click on any of these files and begin entering data for your estate. I will start with the Master Information List, as that is where my decedent is. There are 3 different ways to navigate through the Nebraska Probate System 5. The most common way is to click on the Next button at the bottom right of the screen and go through each interview one at a time. This is especially useful when you are beginning a new file. After the file is begun, you may wish to actually use the hyperlinks or to navigate directly to a question by using the tree at the left of the program. Since our file is new, we will use the Next button. The first screen that appears asks for details on your decedent. You'll enter gender, and you can use the drop-down arrows to the right of the fields where they are available to enter and preset information. Be sure that when you are entering middle initials that you always include the period, as this will not appear magically in your document. After entering the last name, a new warning box will appear asking you to confirm the spelling of the decedent's last name. Confirm the spelling and click Yes. By entering the date of birth and the date of death, the age at death for the decedent will automatically be calculated. Enter the domicile as you normally enter it. If you are uncertain of a particular date, the best thing to do is to right-click and clear the field, and enter the information later. Enter information on the decedent's marital status. At this point, you are going to be entering information on the surviving spouse, as this decedent was married at the time of her death. You are now going to do something that I'm going to be saying a lot. You're going to save. Go to the top of the screen and click on the blue Save button. The reason you're going to save here is that you are going to be leaving this interview and entering another interview area. You don't wish to lose the information that was entered in this area by an inadvertent crash or failure to save. Click on the folder, and a new interview parties, click on the Add button. The interested party interview will appear. Select the gender of your interested party. It is important here to enter every single role that this particular interested party would play. For example, if they are to appear on the Nebraska tax worksheet, they must be marked as a beneficiary. Once the roles have been designated, a number of new questions will appear for you to answer. Begin filling in all the information you have in this particular interested party. Where there are drop-down arrows, there will be choices that you can place in the file. Continue filling in information. Again, please don't be too concerned if you don't have every bit of information at the top of the hour. You can either fill it in later on by going back into this interview or find that you don't really need it. Notice down here under Personal Rep, we have two text fields. The one thing I want you to notice about these text fields is that the text in the fields will appear as part of a narrative sentence in the final document. So you should always begin the text in these fields with a lowercase letter and end it with a period. Since this interested party is a spouse, you will be filling in a little more information on him at the bottom. When you're done, click the Fill button. Once you have reached this area, you're going to want to highlight the interested party and click on the Save Answer Set. Normally that will be blue, and then click Close. Back in the decedent dialog, the surviving spouse is now showing up. If there are any living children, you will now go to Details About Children and click on the box next to Any Living Children. You will then be asked if the surviving spouse is the parent, and you will be given another opportunity to re-enter the interested parties dialog and enter the names of the children. Click on the Add button. A new interested party interview will appear for the children. Fill in all possible roles that this interested party could play. Fill in all the information necessary for this interested party. Make sure that you assign them a beneficiary class for the tax worksheet, and when you are done, click on the Fill button at the bottom. It is not necessary to go back into the decedent's file immediately. You can add as many interested parties as you like at a time. When you have finished entering as many interested parties as you wish to enter for the moment, highlight one of the names and click on the blue Save button at the top. Click Close. Notice that the children and the surviving spouse are now listed in the decedent's information. If you wish to check to specify any details about the death of the decedent, check the box, and the 3 additional boxes necessary for that information will appear below. You can also check to specify the names of the attending physicians. If you wish to enter any information about the decedent's employment history, check the appropriate box and additional fields will appear. When you are done, please go to the top of the interview and click on the blue Save button. Then click the Next button at the bottom of the screen. This next interview will detail the governing documents for the probate. First, check if the decedent left a will. A new file folder will appear. Check Testamentary Documents. To add the will, click on the Add button under all estate planning documents in the file. In this interview, you will fill in detailed information about the will. Click on the drop-down arrow next to Type a Document to classify the will. Continue filling in information on the will. If you wish to enter the names of the witnesses, check the box Check if document was witnessed, and a table will appear allowing you to enter the witness information. You should also check if the document was self-proving. Lastly, indicate the current location of the will by selecting it from the drop-down menu. At this point, you may go back into the Governing Doc dialog by clicking Close at the bottom right, or You may continue adding documents such as codicils by clicking on the Add button. Back at the Governing Documents screen, click on the drop-down and bring in the last will and testament. If a personal representative has been named in the will, check that box. Since we have created an interested party interview for our personal rep, he will appear here and you need to check his name. If this interview is complete, click on the Save button at the top of the screen and click Next at the bottom right. This screen has to do with bond valuations. Either a bond will be required or there will be no bond required. If a bond is required, check the box and fill in the information on the bond. Notice as you fill in the fields that the value of the estate has been calculated for you. You may either check to set the value of the bond equal to the total value of the estate, or enter the amount of the bond yourself. Place the cost of the bond in this field. Click Next to move to the next interview. In this interview, we will enter the information on the court filings. Begin filling in the information that you know. A list of judges with their names and addresses are provided for your convenience. Again, down here you need to check this box to designate or appoint your personal representative and check his name. If there will be publication, you can go down to the publication newspaper area and select a publication that has been placed in your contact manager or type the information in yourself. Again, be sure to save the information and click Next. Several of the next few dialogues you will probably just move through quickly. Here I'm going to illustrate the entry of insurance policies. Click on the Starburst to open a new interview. Fill in all the information you have on the policy, and when you're done, go down here and click the Up button. When you have a list of all the insurance policies you wish to list, please click on the Save button at the top of the screen and click Next. At this point, you can either go ahead and begin filling in any information you have that's necessary for the tax worksheet expenses, or you can click on the Up button and go into the Assets dialog. I will demonstrate just a very few of the worksheet interviews. For example, funeral expenses and death benefits. To itemize funeral expenses, check this box and use the drop-down menus and the boxes to fill in information. Notice that as you have been putting in your expenses for the funeral, that has been added up for you under total funeral expenses. If a Social Security death benefit has been paid, check the box and fill in the information. The amount of the benefit will be subtracted from the total funeral expenses. Click on the Save button and move to the next interview. Another interview I would like to demonstrate to you has to do with unpaid medical expenses. Notice that the medical expenses have been added up, totaled, and the Medicare and private reimbursements have been deleted from the final total. If you have information about the decedent's assets at this point, you may begin entering that information by clicking on Assets and Distribution at the top of the screen. To add the first asset, click the Add button. Choose the type of asset from the drop-down, assign it to a Nebraska tax schedule, provide both a short and a longer description for the asset, and fill in the remaining information, such as the value at death, joint tenants, and any encumbrances. Down here you may add a meets and bounds description for the property, and if you have the meets and bounds description elsewhere on your computer, you may copy and paste it into this field. When done, click the Fill button. Continue to add assets by clicking on the Add button. Here we'll add information on cash accounts. If you wish to itemize valuation or simply group together similar types of assets, you can check the Itemize Valuation of Asset at Time of Death. A spreadsheet will appear. Put in a description of the item. Again, notice that the value of the accounts have been added up for you under Value at Death. And also notice, please, that when I put the savings account on the list, I listed them as one unit. If you do not put in something has at least one unit, it will register as 0 in the final sum. Fill in the remainder of the information, please, and click on the Fill button. In this interview, we will enter information on the decedent's stocks and bonds. If you wish to itemize multiple stocks or bonds or other securities held in a brokerage account, click on Check to Itemize. And enter in the information on the stocks, including the number of shares, the price per share at date of death, and note that by putting in the number of shares and the price, the program will calculate the value and sum it up under value at death. Click on the Fill button. Looking at all the assets, return to the main assets screen, highlight one of the assets, and click on the Save button. Then click Close. At this point, you have more than enough information to begin your first set of documents, so click Close. And close again. Notice back at the screen that the estate of your decedent appears at the top. If you wish to go back in now and make changes to her file, you simply have to move over to the middle Edit File button, click it, and you'll be returned to the main file screen. You may then